The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and/or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of FRC Media, Bristol Community College, or the City of Fall River.
Well, hello. Welcome to Spindle City Straight Talk. I'm Chip.
And I'm CJ.
And it is Wednesday in the Riv.
After a council meeting.
After a council meeting.
Oh, God. I was ready to pluck my eyes out. I mean, over an hour on a public hearing about a Cumberland Farms.
Look, a lot for a few of those councils, that's their first real major FaceTime. You know, they're not used to, they got to get used to being on camera, so they're getting their feet wet.
Oh, yeah, and then one of them, Chris Peckham, actually did his first citation.
Wow, that didn't take long.
No, it was, and as a matter of fact, it was a citation for Patrick A. Jordan, who in 1982 at the Notre Dame fire went into a building and saved 4 or 5 people. And I know Patrick. Patrick has passed away. I know Patrick. He made Eagle Scout and everything else. And he was recognized by the city council in 1982. But I guess, you know, posthumously we had to do it again. So it was kind of nice. You know, the family appreciated it. And I'm sure that Chris felt good for the first time doing it. He said, "You have nothing to be afraid of. This is my first time doing this."
Well,
shows a little bit of humanity in the city council. But already this morning, the barbs are starting to fly against Cliffy. Good old Cliffy. He's getting put in the space. Last night, the city council rescinded the streetscapes projects down on North Main Street. And all of a sudden, Cliffy turns around and says, "But we need to revitalize downtown South Main Street." So in other words, we're moving streetscapes from one place to another.
Moving it over a couple of blocks.
We're
from
moving
Bridges
a couple of
over
blocks.
to South Main.
Yeah, exactly.
So,
and what revitalization does downtown need? What? It needs a lot of revitalization. But because of that courthouse, you really can't do a lot with it.
well, listen, revitalization is a buzzword for politicians spending money
Exactly.
and making their friends rich. Because look, in the future, I foresee Columbia and Princeton doing a study on streetscapes programs. Because as with TIFs, it's a waste of money. Now, if Cliff would have said, let's use that money to revitalize the city residential streets and prioritize the worst streets in the city for the people who pay the taxes. No, again, we want to revitalize a business district for people who are always complaining that they need more tax breaks. Forgive me if I'm not impressed with this, because I think a while ago, and time flies when you're having fun, I think a while ago, when we talked about the initial streetscapes, we brought forth some proof about how ineffective streetscapes really is. Miami, Florida, first example, I believe.
Yes.
And I didn't even know this was here, but fortunately I still have a pretty good memory. Miami was probably the most classic example. Miami, Florida is one of the top tourist destinations in the United States.
And this week it's a big destination because the Super Bowl's there.
South Beach is always hopping. Collins Avenue, and I know you've been there, I've been there. Collins Avenue with all the big hotels, the Fontainebleau, where I think some of the city officials stayed.
Yeah, I think it was a mayor stayed there.
Yeah, the Fontainebleau, which is a gorgeous hotel.
It is.
It is a gorgeous hotel. But they poured hundreds of millions of dollars into streetscapes, and the end result was all the businesses that are already making a ton of money got upgraded at no cost to themselves, and their ability to market themselves was further enhanced when they had the money to do so and could have actually taken it off on their taxes as an expense. But they didn't have to because politicians threw money at them like they always do. And it did not improve the living standard in Miami. It was still one of the worst cities to live in, one of the best cities to visit, and one of the worst cities to live in. So again, our council is always going in the opposite direction from what we should be doing, and that's the reason Fall River never moves forward.
Nope, we don't.
You know, and I also know that my friend and yours, made a presentation on the third quarter budget, and how much questioning was on that third quarter? Not much. And anybody who trusts those figures with the track record, and I will forgive some of the new councilors because they don't know how many mistakes and how many misrepresentations of numbers that this city has done in the last, well, God, 30 years, but especially in the last 5 or 6.
They're going to find out soon, though.
They will find out very soon. And it's appalling. Everything's rosy, everything's wonderful. Let's do the South Main Street. Never, ever is the citizen of Fall River, the residential taxpayer, the apartment dweller, never are they a priority. That's why we have to vote these people out. We cannot continue to allow them to give money to people who don't need it. People who, by the very definition of our economic system, capitalism, are supposed to spend money to make money. But now, we have corrupted that the way we corrupted our form of government. Now businesses don't have to spend any money. Their only job is to make money. They're subsidized by the politicians. And it is a quid pro quo.
That phrase is getting a lot of work lately.
Yeah, even though there can't be a quid without a quo. So, but you know, this disturbs me. I see it. It just happens. It's getting to be from the ridiculous to the sublime. We see a new mayor. Hopefully, we wanted to turn the city around. We know that streetscapes was Jazel's idea to enhance all his friends. And some of those friends whose lot he enhanced with CPA money, with streetscapes money, who helped them, also participated in some of his criminal activities because they pled guilty. Did they not?
Yes, they did.
Okay. So again, do we learn from our mistakes? Forget about that old adage, if you don't learn from history, you're doomed to repeat it. We never do. We're lucky that the city council doesn't have to put their hands on hot stoves because they wouldn't have any arms. They would have burnt their fingers off, their hands off, their forearms off, and we'd be up to the shoulders now. They never learn anything. No matter how bad it gets, and it continues to get worse, and we don't see any marked improvement in anything, the answer is always the same. Throw money at it. And throw money in the wrong places. How about a break for the taxpayer? How about a break for the person who is an apartment dweller? No. Never. Ever, ever. And does it ever end? And is it something new? No. It's like I'm a visionary. I brought in one of my favorite books today because I was going to get to this, but this brings us right into it. Here it is. Labor's Untold Story. Look, it's so old I had to
Tape the cover back on.
tape the cover back on. So I'm going to tell you how long, and this isn't even the beginning, but this is how long the working people in Fall River have been getting screwed by the rich. Now, when I read this, remember, this was the time when the Braytons and the Bordens and the Durfees owned all the mills, and everybody lived in squalor in their tenement houses, while they puffed on their cigars and sipped brandy on their verandas. Okay, just remember this. On October 18th, 1883, not 1983, 1883, okay, Thomas O'Donnell, a mule spinner in Fall River, testified before the Senate Committee on Labor Capital Relations. Quote, I have a brother who has 4 children besides his wife and himself. All he earns is $1.50 a day. He works in the ironworks in Fall River. He only works about 9 months out of 12. There is generally 3 months of stoppage, and his wife and family all have to be supported for a year of the wages of 9 months at $1.50 a day to support the 6 of them. It does not stand to reason that those children and he himself have natural food and be naturally dressed. His children are often sick, and he has to call a doctor, unquote. O'Donnell was asked how he supported his own family on wages of $133 a year. He replied, quote, I got a couple of dollars worth of coal last winter and the wood I picked up myself. I goes around with the shovel and picks up clams and wood. What do you do with the clams? Answer, we eat them. I don't get to sell them, but just eat for the family. That's the way my brother lives mostly. He lives close by us. Question, how many live that way down there in Fall River? Answer, I could not count them. I suppose there are thousands. Thousands that live on $150 a year? Answer, they lives on less. So remember, it has become the way of Fall River to let the poor stay poor. We all forgot with those statistics on Mary Sahadi's automatic cost of living raise, the first ever given to an employee, to my knowledge. $10,000, over $10,000 in 4 years had we used, and the statistics we used, and I still have them. So that's almost half of the per capita income. Her salary is nearly 3.5 times the household income. Funny. Say, why do I do this? Well, I guess that's the thing you're supposed to do if you want to really pay attention and see how bad people are being screwed, because they did it on a national level. I believe they talked about how much money Hunter Biden was getting a month, over $80,000 a month, when at that time, when he first got it, the average household income for a family of 4 in the United States was $54. So these drive home points. Names don't matter. Principle matters. The reality matters. The reality is about nobody gives a damn about the poor people. And as long as the poor people don't rise up and vote people in who appreciate how difficult life is for them, like it was in 1883, and here we are in 2020, while our council does things like this. So I had to get that one in, CJ, but...
While we're still speaking about poverty, the school superintendent laid out his Student Opportunity Act funds that he's getting from the state, and one of the things that he's getting is the fact that 70% of the student population is in poverty. 70%.
That's a staggering total.
Now, if that can be transposed into the general community, you're looking at 70% of the general community being in poverty.
Yeah.
But it's okay for the city council to approve tax hikes. It's okay for the city council to approve a tax factor.
But remember, we have to reduce it for the businesses.
That's right.
The businesses that are making a good profit, because believe me, I'd like to see the statistics on how many small businesses that require customers are not selling their product somewhere else, like Matuk, with his $500 towels. I'd like to know how many of our viewers have Matuk towels. Please, email us.
I don't.
Let us know. $500 towels. I don't spend $500 on towels for a decade. You know, I go down to Walmart and buy my towels. I'm sorry. I can't afford a $500. Besides that, I'd be afraid to wipe myself with a $500 towel. It would be crazy. But as you said, there's a total disregard for the reality of Fall River. Even though the majority of people in this city are poor, even if they're not in poverty, they're in near poverty. They're not upper middle class.
They're not even lower middle class.
They're not even lower middle class. You know, and our government, because we let it, because we don't put the right people in, our government allows the money to go to all the wrong places. You know, we were singing that song about, you know, money for free and or
money for nothing and chicks for free.
You know, that I have to paraphrase one of those old ones. You know, throwing money in all the wrong places.
Yeah.
You know, like looking for love in all the wrong places. Well, this is what our government does. Throwing money at all the wrong places. Have we ever instituted any kind of program to go out and research private-public partnerships to create apprenticeship programs, work-study programs, coordinating things with the schools, with technical schools, with Durfee, with everything. Going out to employers, not only in Fall River, employers throughout our geographical area. When Rhode Island did it and taught welding, those people weren't going to work in Providence or Warwick. They were going to work on electric boat for the most part. But welding is a trade. You can work places. You can do things. But no, what do? We got BCTC. They've been there for like a zillion years. They changed the name. The same old political hacks remain. And nothing ever gets done. I remember when they first started that sham. They had a storefront down there at the beginning of Pleasant Street. And what do they train? We talked about this. You know, phlebotomists and stuff like that.
Nurses' aides.
Yeah, nurses' aides. And those look, you can get a couple of jobs, but those jobs are fundamentally entry-level, dead-end, and really not that big a demand anymore. You know, phlebotomists are a dime a dozen. So, you know, nurses' aides, obviously, there's always a call with all the nursing homes. But still, where are the real good jobs? The 7 million jobs that are unfilled, that pay well. Those are the jobs that require some training, some technical expertise, some understanding of certain fundamental things to do that can be trained. Why can't we reach out to companies and say, we have people, if we get you the people, will you train these people? Will you work hand in hand? Why don't we spend some of this money? You want to give somebody, don't give them a TIF. Forget about giving people TIFs, and like we said on the last show, give them money for coming here rather than having them invest in the city. Why don't we take some of that money and tell the companies we'll even subsidize the training to a degree? Why? Because it works. It worked in Germany. Well, why not get our people working? They don't want to do that, because if they do that, half the people well, our population will be 25,000 in 10 years, because everybody that gets trained is going to get the hell out of Dodge. That's the reality, because this city can't clean up its act. We can't make it a safe, clean city that people want to come to. But we're gonna spruce up South Main Street, whose jewel, the crown jewel of South Main, is now a courthouse.
That's right.
Which is absurd. I opposed that courthouse when they built it. I still oppose it. It just goes to show what they think of Fall River.
Well, you can thank Eddie Lambert for that one.
Oh, yeah. Well, we can thank him for a lot of things.
I know. Now, here's the interesting thing. You know, we have community development block grant money. What can that be used for? Could that be used for training? It's supposed to be used for poverty issues.
Yeah.
Okay? I don't think economic development is a poverty issue, but they can use it for that.
Well,
they can use it for fire engines.
Well, fire engines, public safety,
Right.
The reality is that crime and fires are basically
a big business in Fall River.
Proportionate to the poverty. The lower the socioeconomic level of an area, the more fires there are. That's statistically been proven. So, and also crime.
Right.
So the reality is, okay, you CD money to but we're getting grants, I see, from the state for public safety. That's never been an issue. But as I said, great point, CJ. Why can't we use CDA? Instead of giving it to somebody who's already collecting tax dollar money, give it to another entity that's getting tax money, give them another loan. All this is, as we said, is a giant circle jerk of tax money. And it all comes out of our pocket,
right.
And it ends up doing absolutely nothing. If, as you said, if they could use CDA money to establish apprenticeship programs, those are the public-private partnerships I support. I don't support them when we're subsidizing the private entity. We're subsidizing the private entity in this case. Let me make a clarification, because somebody with a memory maybe out there will say, well, you say you're always against private-public. I am. But there are exceptions to every rule. But when it's going to actually help the citizens of Fall River, then you can say, okay, I'd rather put some money into an apprenticeship program than give it to somebody who's already getting my taxpayer dollar to develop an economy that can't be developed, because we can't develop an economy. An economy is not based on the businesses. It's based on the ability of the community to be part of the economy.
Right.
All we have to do is look at we did it on this show. We showed Cambridge and Newton versus Fall River and New Bedford. 10,000 plus businesses in both of those communities versus 5,000 in Fall River and New Bedford. Why? Twice the number of businesses. Maybe because they have twice the discretionary income, 3 times the discretionary income. I don't care. Cities don't run on giant corporations. Not for the residents, not for the people in the community. Because, listen, you think everybody that works in a giant factory lives in that city? There's no residency requirement. Why do you think Newton's so affluent? Virtually none of those people who live in Newton work in Newton. They work in Boston or Cambridge or somewhere around 128. They go to their bedroom community with a big fat paycheck, a big wad of money that they can go to restaurants, they can go to clothing stores, they can go to businesses. That's why their economy is so good. Not because some pinhead who works 4 days a week and is going to say that we're going to fix our economy by looking to bring in more Amazons. Look how much Amazon's done for our economy. Nada. Zero. So, this stuff it drives me bananas, because it's an insult to people who actually can think, to their intelligence. And how the city council has managed to get away with it for this long is our fault. It's the fault of the people. You're poor, and you don't want to do anything about it. You say, there's nothing I can do. There is. Vote. Vote. Maybe we'll get an apprenticeship program. Maybe we'll get you a better job. Maybe we'll have a better city. We can only have a better city when we have better priorities. Your turn, CJ. Because this is crazy.
Yeah, it is. It's absolutely nuts. And when you look at the things that they're talking about in Fall River, okay, Canning Boulevard. Now, Canning Boulevard sucks. It's got to be one of the worst streets in Fall River, and they started construction on it. But what does the state want to do? They want to give it another $400,000 for state road repairs. Because remember, Plymouth Avenue, William S. Canning Boulevard are not city streets. They're Route 81. They're a state road, a state highway. And we're plowing those when it snows. We're plowing those because that state highway is what is used by the ambulances to get to the hospitals, because the hospitals are on those routes.
And are we getting reimbursed for the plowing?
Well, you know, that was asked by City Councilor Sean Kadim once, and nothing's ever been talked about since.
Yeah, well, no follow-up. But look, Canning Boulevard, I really feel bad for those South End residents. Between a marijuana place, the shopping malls and construction, it must be a nightmare to live in that area, in the residential areas with the traffic. Because there's more detours, just what we need, another $400,000 for road improvements that go on forever. Let's just hope it doesn't take as long as the Braga Bridge. How long did painting the Braga Bridge take?
It seemed like 20 years.
I think it was 20. Well, for a while there, the Braga Bridge never had every lane open. I think it was
right.
After it had been up for about 25 years, they finally opened all the lanes. But listen, people.
And they still close them regularly.
Remember, look, get on Amazon or whatever the thing is. You buy Amazon anything too. They all got them. The other thing I'm sure that this book is still available, Labor's Untold Story. It's an old book, but I'll tell you, it's a history book, the history of labor. It will open your eyes to what the labor movement had to go through to become a labor union, and the problems they faced. Right here, on the front cover, there's a picture of people trying to unionize getting bludgeoned by the police. And it talks about the people who died during the labor movement, and it talks about and again, Fall River is in here 3 or 4 times.
We're the poster child for failure.
It is Labor's Untold Story by Richard O. Boyer and Herbert M. Marias. It is
who are long since dead.
And it was actually, when I bought it, which was like 49,000 years ago, it was $4.50. So, because it was a paperback and stuff was a lot cheaper then. That wasn't actually a really super cheap book, but I'm sure you can get it fairly cheaply if it's, and I'm sure it will be available, although it may not be cheap because who knows, it's been out of print. It's been out of print for a long time. Maybe this becomes a treasure item, you know?
Hey, you never know. Could be a collector's item.
But it is a great book. I had 2 copies. I loaned 1 copy to somebody, and I never got it back. If I can ever remember who it was I loaned it to, I'll have a copy available if anybody wants to borrow it.
It's interesting, but not a lot we can do about it.
Yes, unfortunately. Have a good day, and remember.
And remember, Fall River is the poster child for rip off the taxpayer, and we're the poster child for failure. Nothing better.
Complain to your city councilors about their, again, misappropriating money. Damn the residents. Full speed ahead.
That's it. Hey, have a great day. We'll see you on my birthday Friday. Take care.
I want everybody to sing happy birthday to CJ on Friday.